In the beginning of the film, we are shown a beautiful nurse. She was taking care of her patient in the hospital. The patient was an old woman whose condition was very bad. She was also having trouble breathing. The nurse, whose name is Gwen, comes to that woman and turns off her oxygen. She also shut down her breathing tube. Because of this, the old woman's breath stopped. After that, Gwen calls the doctor. When the doctors came and were saving that old woman, Gwen was standing by the door, laughing. Here we find out that Gwen is a psychotic nurse. She liked to see her patients in pain. Anyway, the doctors saved that old woman. Gwen leaves after seeing all this. Looking at her, it could be assumed that she had no regrets for such an act. In the next scene, we see a girl named Mira was living happily with her husband and son. Her son comes to him and says, "Mom, my feet are hurting." Here we find out that Mira's son had a disease. He could not walk properly without support. Mira talks to her husband about her son, that he climbs the stairs himself. Mira's husband says, "Oh, come on, don't be so scared. Nothing happens to our son." Then we see Gwen, a psycho nurse in Mira's house, whom Mira had kept to take care of her son. Here, Gwen used to live in Mira's house like a family member. Now the four of them have breakfast together. During breakfast, Mira's son dropped his stretchers on the stairs with whose support he used to walk. But as we know, Gwen can't do the right thing. She loosened the stretchers, so that when Mira's son uses stretchers would fall down. Gwen used to do all this for her own fun, as we had seen at the beginning of the story. Anyway, after this, Mira's husband was ready to go to the office. He stands near Mira. Gwen was jealous of Mira because she started liking Mira's husband. Meanwhile, Mira's friend comes home, who was sitting and talking to Mira. At that time, Gwen overhears them pretending to play with Mira's son. Mira's friend was telling her, "Mira, you will have to hire another nurse for your son. I think your son and husband have started liking Gwen a little too much." Mira tells her friend, "No, it's not like that. You are thinking too much." Meanwhile, Mira hears her son's voice. He fell off the stretcher. She scolds Gwen a lot because of her son's fall, because she felt that Gwen did not take good care of her son. Her son says to Mira, "No, Mom, this is not because of Gwen. It was all my fault." At night, she also apologizes to Gwen, that she shouted at her for no reason. Gwen says, "No, it's not your fault. A mother is very worried about her child." And although we know that Gwen did all this, after that, she makes tea for Mira. Mira joined a society in which there were people like her son. They all had the same disease. Mira sadly shared with them about her son's illness. After that, she comes home. Gwen gives her tea, which she had made for her. As soon as Mira drank tea, she fell asleep. After a while, the doctor comes home. When Mira was sleeping, she brought her son's stretcher. When she was going to give it to Dr. Mira's son, Gwen stopped her and said, "You go. I will give it to him." On the way, the doctor says, "I may know you. I have seen you somewhere." As soon as Mira wakes up, she says, "I promise. I will definitely tell you." In the evening, Gwen goes to the doctor's house and says, "You were right. You know me. I also often remember you." After saying this, she went to the doctor and put an injection in his arm. Here we find out that at the beginning of the story, the doctor saved the life of the old woman. Gwen was afraid the doctor would tell Mira's husband, so she gave Mira a drug injection and killed her. On the same night, Mira gets a call from a man, who was referring to his name as David. He says, "I am a member of the same society that you have joined because of your son's disease. He also says that the disease that your son has, my son also has the same disease." The picture that David had put in his profile, it is a little blurry, which she was not able to see. Here, David tells us that his wife is dead. That's why I have kept a nurse for my son. Mira listens to this and says, "You did very well. The man named David there was no one else but Gwen, who was talking to Mira, by changing her voice with the help of a computer." In the morning, her friend comes to Mira's house. She had dropped something on Mira's husband's shirt. Gwen takes Mira's husband's shirt to the laundry to clean it. That's when Mira's friend went inside to take her purse, and she sees that Gwen is smelling Mira's husband's shirt. She feels a little strange seeing this, and she also had a doubt that Gwen had started liking Mira's husband, but she does not tell this to her friend Mira, because she was afraid that her family might be ruined. At night, Gwen again talks to Mira as David and asks about her son. Mira says that my son is a little more normal now, but I did not like it at all the day he fell. After talking so much, Gwen quickly goes to Mira so that she can catch him thinking that she is talking to a man. And she was also successful in this game. On the way, she says to Mira's husband, I just heard Mira talking to someone. She wanted Mira's husband to doubt her and leave. Mira, but here her game goes upside down. Mira's husband speaks in favor of his wife and says that she is doing a lot of work these days, and her sleep is also not complete. Maybe that's why she is a little worried. After hearing all this, Gwen hugged Mira's husband and said goodnight and left. Gwen actually wanted to get Mira's husband anyway. The next morning, Gwen and Mira's husband were in the kitchen. When Mira wakes up, Gwen has done all the work in her house. Then she gets a call from her friend, who thanks Mira saying that you remembered my birthday. But Mira is a little confused and surprised, because she did not send birthday wishes. Gwen comes to her and says, You forgot your friend's birthday, so I sent flowers to her house. Mira starts walking, unconscious. Mira says that maybe I should get checked out by a doctor. Don't talk to my husband about this. Gwen says, Why do you need to go to the doctor? I will take your blood sample and get it tested in the lab. Now at night, Gwen talks to Mira again as David. Mira tells her about her problems. Then her husband and son came here. Seeing them, Mira cuts off the call. Mira wanted to take her son to the room, but she fell asleep on the sofa. Then she gets a message David is fraud. When Mira's husband comes to her in the morning, he sees the message on his phone. He does not understand who David is or why Mira talks to him. At the same time, her son also wonders why his mother is sleeping so much. Gwen did all the work at Mira's house. Mira gets a message again that David is fraud. Gwen also read it. Mira somehow prepares herself to go to the office. And she came to the office. She meets her friend and tells him that my blood reports are absolutely correct. And Gwen was right. I just need rest. Her friend says, Should I tell you something? Show that doctor, who has nothing to do with Gwen. Then she gets a letter from David, in which it was written that the man who is messaging you about me wants to defame you. Then she also gets a letter from that man who was saying that your son's life is in danger. After reading these two emails, Mira comes home, and she was also very worried. She had also told Gwen about this, and she says to meet that man. I am going to the cafe in the evening. Mira's husband hears this, and he feels that Gwen's words are true. His wife is cheating on him. The next morning, Mira goes to a cafe to meet that man, who was actually David. He says that my name is David, and I have never talked to you. He also says that my wife has blood cancer. One day he got a call from a man who used to talk to him. He told him not to go to the doctor. My wife started listening to him. Because of him, she died. He also shows her a picture of that man. Then Mira comes to know that this picture is of the same man, who was talking to Mira as David. But still, Mira had no doubt about Gwen. Then outside we see her husband, who had come here following Mira. He also sees his wife hugging David, with which he believes that Mira is really cheating him. A friend came home to give Mira's bag. Gwen takes her bag home. Then Mira's friend says to Gwen that I know you like Mira's husband. I saw you smell his shirt that day. Stay away from Mira's family. If you try to harm them even a little, then no one will be worse than me. Saying this, when she was about to leave, Gwen attacks him from behind. Then Gwen put her in a car and took her to a deserted place. To kill him, she gave him a drug injection. Then she leaves her there and comes home. She sees Mira cooking food. Gwen talks to him and steals the knife, with which Mira was cutting vegetables. She now takes him to David's house. And here we come to know that Gwen had already been the nurse for David's wife. And she talked to his wife as a man, and also told her to stop her treatment. Here, Gwen kills David with the same knife. And she had dropped Mira's blood, which she had taken for his blood test, which seemed to indicate that Mira had killed David. That night, Mira's husband comes home. He was drunk, because he was very upset because of his wife. Gwen tries to get close to him, but Mira's husband still loves her. In the morning, Mira's eyes fell on the bottle that was in her hand, on which it was written, Little Boy. What Gwen had written, she remembers that Gwen always uses little boy love. When she goes to throw the water in the bottle, that Gwen had given her, she saw some powder mixed in water. Here, Mira understood that the water was poisoned. Mira now goes to Gwen's room, where she found a book in which it was written about poisonous drugs. She gets a lot of poisonous drugs from under the bed. Meanwhile, she sees that Gwen has come home. When Mira opens the door, Gwen understands that she did not drink water from the bottle, because of which she was still awake. She again gave water to Mira. Then Gwen went to the hospital, with Mira's son, where she used to get her therapy. Mira wanted to stop her son, but he did not stop and went with Gwen. After Gwen and her son left, she again goes to Gwen's room and starts making videos in which she was telling about all the acts of Gwen. She had also called her husband and told him about it, and she went to the police station. But when Gwen came home, she found out Mira had found out everything about her. When she comes home, Mira's son is not with her. Mira tells her to go to her son. On the way, Gwen tells Mira that I have worked as a nurse for so many years. No one has ever treated me like a family member, like you appointed in your house. So don't worry not. I will kill you and take your place. Gwen was saying this because she liked Mira's husband. On the other hand, Mira's the husband also comes home. When she does not meet Mira at home, he gets her phone and watches her recorded video, from which he came to know the reality of Gwen. On the other side, Gwen came home with Mira, where she told her that I have killed the doctor, your friend, and next your turn, Mira was very worried. She starts looking for her son at Gwen's house. She says that your son is still in the clinic. I have come here to kill you, and I killed David with that knife on which you have fingerprints. The police will consider you a murderer, and your son and husband will hate you. That's why when Mira started running from here, Gwen caught her, tried to kill her by strangling her neck. Mira takes a bowl and hits Gwen on the head. She fell unconscious. Mira escaped from the house and came home. At the end of the story, we are shown Mira, her husband, and her son, who had started living a happy life again. At the same time, Gwen was punished for committing so many murders. This movie ends here. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like